My name is Nassim Sabs.
I had no idea what we were in for. Within 3 or 4 months, we began to understand the true meaning of spiritual warfare. Once I stepped out in faith to begin doing this, Satan came from the other end and attacked us in every way imaginable. And I believe it was all under the sovereignty of God. God allowed it. It toughened my wife and I up and made us more determined. And we can tell you, though, that you need to expect spiritual warfare if you take a stand in this area. You have to be prepared for it. Not long after I left my job and began working on my book, I was invited to join an organization called the World Constitution and Parliament Association. And you will see the stationery coming up on the screen there in a letter that they sent out. I'm just putting this up there as visual evidence so that you can see all of this was very real and still is. If you can read it across the top, it says World Constitution and Parliament Association, organizing agent for the Provisional World Parliament. This organization is still alive and kicking. They've held 12 meetings of a Provisional World Parliament so far, no media coverage whatsoever. When I was familiar with this organization, the leaders of at least 200 or 300 other organizations belonged to it. So it was part of a much larger network of organizations, like-minded groups, wanting to bring about a global government, many of them coming from a New Age occult perspective. I just wanted to put this up there briefly so that you realize this is a real effort. This isn't just something we're arriving at through deductive reasoning. We have evidence that this is taking place and that we can expect global government during our lifetime if things keep moving forward the way they are right now. Anyway, by 1990, which is when this letter was sent out, this group felt emboldened because it was around that time that the first President Bush began to openly speak of the New World Order. How many of you remember that? Quite a few of you. And it was a shock that he would openly talk about the New World Order. Well, all these organizations behind the scenes felt that this was their time now to begin moving forward more quickly, and they felt more comfortable in doing so. And so the decade of the 90s was a time when many pieces were put in place for eventual global government, but it was still largely behind the scenes, under the radar. But things were happening quickly. The goal among some of these groups was to get to the point where they are so far along that they could use the year 2000 as a type of coming out celebration. They felt that by then they would hopefully have so many in their ranks, so many people supporting this agenda, that they would feel completely comfortable coming out in the open. And that did happen to a degree. In late August and early September of the year 2000, there were 3 meetings held in New York City, 2 of them at the United Nations. One of them involved all the top religious leaders of the world, trying to move them toward unification. The other meeting had to do with the top political figures. In fact, 160 heads of state from around the world came together. That was unprecedented. That was over 80% of the top leaders in the world. The third meeting was targeting media moguls, top academic people, leading economic figures from around the world, and they also gathered together. All these groups, the purpose was to discuss globalization and how to bring the world together. A few months later, actually just 2 months later, November 4th and 5th, an even larger meeting was held, this one in Rome, Italy. It was organized by the Vatican. Privately, it was referred to as a meeting of the world's parliament. The reason being that there were several thousand members of parliaments from around the world who were in attendance, a total of 5,000 people approximately who were there. The media knew about this event, but only one agency, Zenit News Agency, even covered it. So most people never knew that it even took place. But they built on the meetings in New York to further discuss globalization, right there with the endorsement of the Vatican. It's important that we know about this. From that time forward, things have really moved along at a rapid pace. I think most of you who follow the news are amazed at how much has happened in our world during the last 10 years or so. And the stage is being set. We see chaos everywhere on every front. And I believe this is intended to bring humanity to the point where they will look for some type of answer. And right when humanity is crying out for an answer, these people will step on the scene with the answer being global government and a global leader over that global government who will become, to the people of Earth, a type of savior. Unfortunately, a false savior. But they will view him, I'm speaking of the Antichrist, as a type of savior because they've rejected the truth of Jesus Christ, who is the true savior. And that is why I'm calling my presentation this evening "In Need of a Savior: The Current State of America and the World." As we move forward, our nation and world are continuing to spiral downward in almost every area of significance. Whether on the economic, political, or religious front, there seems to be a mounting tidal wave of bad news.
This is wild, it's a triple threat. 2-2 with the triple fat goose. You ain't never seen a bigger threat. You ain't never seen a bigger threat. Deuce, this is wild, getting really off a bag of illy. Iced out on the sand like a chili willy. You ain't never seen a bigger threat. Deuce, this is wild, it's a triple threat.
In this world that's been frozen, they come the chosen. Rising from the dead, overthrow the opposing. Forces of evil controlling our people. Deuces is wild and their wisdom is lethal.
422 storming through, I can see you. Strike a match like the sun, watch the preview. Life is a game, play wars, don't refuse you. 3 is the view and light we are true to.